Welcome to the AI Applied podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Each week, I cover breaking AI news, tools, and interview experts giving you actionable tips on applying AI into your career, job, workflows, and life. Make sure that you go to aibox.ai, link in the show notes, to join the waitlist for our new AI platform. We're going to be launching an incredible platform that allows you to build anything you want with workflows in AI. So you're able to chain together ChatGPT and image generators and audio generators to make really powerful apps for your organization, or you can host them on our marketplace and actually generate royalties from them. So make sure to go to aibox.ai and join the waitlist. In addition, if you like the podcast, if you could do me a massive favor and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps me be able to get better guests on here as they check the reviews to see how you guys are liking it. So if you could please do that, I would really appreciate it. GitHub has just announced a big new product that I believe is going to solve an issue a lot of people have had, specifically with GitHub's AI Copilot. So in the past, a lot of people complained when this thing first launched because essentially GitHub's Copilot was trained on, all of the repositories on GitHub, all of the code on GitHub. But the issue was a lot of private repositories were used for training, and people were finding that when they were, getting Copilot to recommend code, it was recommending code from, repositories that were supposed to be private, like things coming out of Apple. And of course, this is a big no-no if people are able to get code straight out of Apple's, private IP, their private repositories. So GitHub had to do some quick shuffling back then. I believe they pulled all the private repositories out of their data set, retrained it. They were able to get rid of that. But still, people to this day are complaining, about essentially having code that is from other people's repositories. They did try to put another solution in place. In any case, this has been a problem that they've had for quite a while, and today they may have come out with a solution. So on the podcast, we are going to be diving into what exactly happened and what they did here. So in 2022, GitHub put in motion a feature that essentially permitted users to automatically block suggestions of matching public code, right? This makes a lot of sense. This is public code. They don't want the suggestions if it looks like they just straight up plagiarized and copied it somewhere. They could be liable. So while this did address one issue, it didn't answer all of the concerns. According to GitHub and a spokesperson there, the system would come into play less than 1% of the time. So it's kind of an interesting idea, maybe gave some people peace of mind, but in reality, it wasn't actually used very much. So developers might be intrigued to inspect these code fragments, either to incorporate them or perhaps to kind of explore the entire library from which the snippet originated, right, of that 1% of the time. So in an effort to kind of bridge this divide between both desires, GitHub has announced the launch of a private beta of a code referencing feature for GitHub Copilot. So rather than an outright blockage of matching code, developers are now empowered with a choice. When code referencing is activated, Copilot showcases the matching code in a sidebar, and it gives the developers the freedom to decide essentially their fate, right? What they want to do, if they want to take this code that's somewhere else or not. Now, the thing that I actually see being valuable here, they say, oh, this is less than 1%, yada, yada. And I know they try to downplay it. But if you're trying to code something, you can't figure it out, it's really complicated, you see someone else has done it, it's part of that, 1%. Sometimes the 1% of code is still the valuable percentage that a lot of people would like to use, or it's really valuable, or it's the trickiest part, right? So let's say it's there. I think developers would like the option of being able to see that code. And, some people are like, oh, then they can copy it. In reality, I think they would like to see it, and maybe they would just like to see how it was coded. They can write it their own way. But I think that it's actually a really useful, even if not for anything but educational purposes, I think it's a really useful tool. So this feature is planned to expand to Copilot Chat eventually. So it was previewed last November, but the feature required some fine-tuning before its release. And GitHub CEO Thomas Domke expressed that major players, including Microsoft, GitHub, and most Copilot enterprise customers using the original blocking feature. So, however, he also acknowledged its limitations, stating, quote, "It gives you a little control to decide for yourself whether you actually want to take that code and attribute it back to an open source license. It doesn't actually let you discover that there might be a library that you could use instead of synthesizing code. It prevents you from exploring these libraries and submitting pull requests. You might be reproducing everything that already exists in some open source repo." So Domk highlights that this was particularly relevant to commonplace computer algorithms like sorting. The newly introduced feature will allow developers to reject the code, use it directly if the library allows, or have Copilot reformulate the code. So the current version doesn't actually allow for results filtering by specific licenses, but the team is working, they're getting feedback to kind of gauge the necessity of adding that. They said, quote, "We're letting people understand the match and then go on and explore or go and make the right decision." So Domk explained, adding that he believes it fills the gap in the original solution. So the code referencing feature pretty much tends to be more active in scenarios where Copilot, it kind of lacks context. So when there's tons of context and that's all available, from existing code, Copilot is a lot less likely to suggest matching public code. However, at the initial stages, I think the likelihood of generating matching code actually increases. So central to this whole kind of initiative is a fast search engine, which is aiming to essentially keep latency within 10 to 20 milliseconds. I think this is really big. No one wants to wait for their code to generate. No one wants to wait a long time for anything. And I think increasing the speed is a big bonus on this. So it can rapidly essentially identify matching code and its licenses. You're not waiting around for that. And currently the matching snippets are listed in the order found, but in line with GitHub's original announcement, future functionality is going to be to sort by repository license, commit date, and etc. And that can be expected in the near future. So in essence, GitHub's a new feature manifests a nuanced approach to code referencing, catering to the multifaceted need of developers, right? And I think that the ever-changing landscape of software development continues to be shaped. We're seeing a lot of rapid developments here, and I think that GitHub's latest move is a reflection of the delicate balance between innovation and also responsible coding practices. So I think this is going to be an interesting story to follow in the future, seeing how they roll this out and how this is actually adopted by enterprise. If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community. Thank you for tuning in to the AI Applied podcast. Make sure to rate this wherever you listen to your podcasts, and have a fantastic rest of your day.